Right, so hello, welcome to Tigers, blah, blah, blah. We're back for our second episode, the Hull City podcast with me, Luke Flanagan, and is my co-host, Richard Walker.
Good afternoon.
There we go. And this week we're going to discuss our favourite players, top three favourite players. We'll have a guest later on as well. And also, I just want to say thank you for all of the people who've been involved on social media. We've got Twitter and Facebook now, which has been pinging up on my phone for the last 24 hours very successfully. We'll get to our tweets and stuff later on, but we're at Tigers Blah on Twitter, and then on Facebook it's at Tigers Podcast. So thank you for downloading. We hope you enjoy the episode. Right, so Rich, I'm going to let you go first with your top players.
Okay, so we're working our way down the list, aren't we?
Yeah, so it's 3 first, then 2, then 1.
So just to clarify, we've not gone for the players that we think are the best Hull City players in terms of technical ability or anything like that.
We are going to do our favourite players. So this is more room for discussion here, I think. Basically. So
I mean, there probably will be some overlap between who we think are the best technically and who we've enjoyed watching the most. But that's what we've gone for, our favourite ones, the ones that have given us the most pleasure as City fans.
Indeed.
So at number 3 on my list, a man who, for me, has spent not enough time wearing a black and amber shirt is Fraser Campbell.
Oh, Fraser Campbell. Dirt.
Right, well, there's two endings to that chant, isn't there? Depending on which era of Fraser you're going for.
Depending on the time frame,
yeah.
I do love Fraser Campbell. I understand your choice absolutely, but I do want to hear your reasoning and explanations for it also.
I don't think in all my time watching City we've had a striker like him. Certainly when he signed on loan from Man United, we hadn't had a striker with that pace, frightening pace, to turn defenders, back towards their own goal for a long time.
Yeah.
I can't remember one. We used to get linked with players all the time who would, be in that mould. Leroy Lita used to get linked all the time, Peter Taylor. And he'd have probably been similar, I think, in terms of his ability to get behind defenders. But just when Campbell came, he had absolutely no fanfare, nobody knew anything about him because it was with us that he established himself within English fans' consciousness.
Yeah.
And he just did that immediately. I think his debut was away at Watford and it was a fairly quiet one, but then his home debut against Barnsley, just 2 goals, and he just looked immediately like championship quality, top end quality. I think we've been lucky enough that we had Winderson and Folan up to that point anyway, although Folan hadn't quite played because I think his injury at Blackpool had kept him out. And then Campbell came into the team and was just like bang, instant impact. 15 goals that season, I think. And some absolute crackers in amongst them.
I've just got it up on my laptop and I saw that goal against West Brom. Where he's outside the area, absolutely pings it.
I think that was probably the best one he scored that season. It was, and that game especially, we were cresting the wave at that point in the season. We'd come from a fairly nondescript first half of the year, and then we just putting a good run of form together, and that away win at West Brom just established us as a team that people needed to consider seriously as a real threat for the playoff places and the automatic promotion places, I think. And that goal is just fantastic. It picks it up 25-30 yards out, and it's just he has one look up and it's top corner. I would say, has he scored a better one for us? I'm not sure that he ever did.
No, that one is just. I mean, watching it again now, just the way he just had the it was just audacity from there to just go right, bending it in here.
Yeah,
and it's perfect as well because it was way over the keeper and it drops so suddenly.
Drops in over him.
Yeah, just so good. I mean, because when you look back at, because it was 2008 he signed for us, wasn't it? And then we
Yeah.
did want him when we went into Premier. We never got him, did we?
No,
Didn't he go to Man United as part of the Berbatov deal?
no, he went to Tottenham as part of the Berbatov deal.
Sorry, he went, yeah, because Berbatov was going to Man United, so they sent him the other way, but he didn't really
Yeah.
have any impact there, did he?
Not
Then
an
he
awful
played-
lot, no. And
he
I know
played-
that we had a bid accepted.
Yeah.
I think just after his move, after he'd come back the following season, we had a record bid accepted, and then he went to Sunderland, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it didn't work out there.
He played the pantomime villain when he played for Cardiff, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he did to a certain extent for Sunderland, and I know he got pelters when he was at Palace as well. But it's always been something that's bothered me about football fans. That is that, you know, they can't really take other people, you know, who've done well for your team, and it's like they're signed somewhere else and they want to do well elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, the whole greedy bastard thing. I didn't really understand it, because at the time he went to Sunderland, his move worked out for him in a sense that, all right, he got injured and what have you, so his opportunities were limited. But I thought if you were looking at the two clubs at the time, you'd have picked Sunderland over City any day, because, you know, when the opportunity came and he had to choose between the two of us,
they were the safer bet at the
time.
Yeah,
and it was proved right, because that next season we were an absolute basket case of a club, you know, financial problems and what have you, and it worked for him. I think he got an England cap.
He did, yeah,
off a run of form for Sunderland, and then, you know, went to Cardiff and Palace. So really, I don't think you can argue with the moves that he made, and people would say, well, when he came back to us, it was because of a lack of options or whatever. But
he still did well for us when he came back. So I remember
the
Rotherham away game that we went to, and he'd scored a good goal there.
Yeah, I mean, his second season, his second full season back was his. I think it was his second most successful season in terms of goals scored.
Yeah, he did.
So,
he scored a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think
we've always struggled for a 20-goal a season striker, haven't we? We've never really had one until then. Jared Bowen started to score the goals, but he was the closest, I think. Him and Fryatt, for me, were the ones that he could rely as an actual goal scorer. You know, other than maybe Hernandez, but I always have good memories of Fraser Campbell. My choice. Mine is my number 3. My favourite players is Abel Hernandez.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I was watching his goals back. There's very conveniently on YouTube. There's all 39 goals as a link on YouTube, so that made my research very easy.
Yes.
But there were some crackers in there, and interestingly on that they didn't count the overhead kick, the Diamandi one. I think it was actually credited to Diamandi in the end. That one, was it?
I have no idea.
It must have been, because it wasn't on his list anyway.
I don't think either of them were in my FPL squads for that weekend. And as long as the ball went in the back of the net, I didn't really care. No.
Yeah, beat the reigning champions Leicester at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So nearly 100 games and then 39 goals. So you're looking at just over 1 in 3.
It's a fantastic strike rate, that.
Which is good. And one of the best ones I remember watching was, I don't know if you remember this goal, Cardiff, 2015-16 season. Diamandi plays a chip over the top, and he just chests it superbly, volleys straight back into the bottom corner. That was one of my favourite goals that he scored.
He was good at that, though. He could score all different kinds of goals, you know.
He could, but do you know what really struck me when I was watching the goals again? Just how much of a predator he was.
Yeah.
If a keeper saved it and palmed it out, he was there before he knew when to play the offside, and he was never really flagged offside in that situation. Sometimes the ball hit him and he didn't even realise that he'd scored until it went in the back of the net. He was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it was a proper play between the posts kind of striker.
I
always felt like he suffered a little bit in our championship promotion season for the formation that we played, and you know, having Diame as a number 10 behind him, I always felt that Hernandez played a little better when he had a partner.
Yeah, he was always better as a 2, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought so.
But Obviously Bruce chose a particular way to play, and that was one of the sacrifices he made. But he still scored a lot of goals.
He did. Yeah, he did. He was fantastic for us. I think my favourite one from that season, probably a lot of people's favourite Hernandez goal, was Derby away in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I've got the top 3 goals that I was making a note of. One was against Cardiff, where that one with Diarmi had chipped, and then he chested it. Another one was Burnley, where he had the ball out wide, cut inside, and then left peg.
Yeah, that was a fantastic goal. Yeah,
that was a great one. And then obviously, Derby in the playoffs, just for the scenes that ensued afterwards. Just like Bruce red in the face, going absolutely mental.
Yeah, I think we were all red in the face in the stands that afternoon. That is one of my favourite City away games. It was just a brilliant, brilliant day.
Yeah, wished I was there. That was my birthday. That was my 30th birthday.
Of course it was. Yeah.
And you got the train back. Funny story. You got the train back, then came to my 30th party that I knew nothing about, that my missus has organised. And you were gone, weren't you? Understandably.
I was in good spirits, shall we say.
And my missus had ordered a hot tub, and just like as part of the sort of garden party thing that we're having. And some people went in it later on and stuff, but obviously loads of people were there, and you just decided that it would be a good idea to sit on the side of this hot tub, which was actually inflatable. So water just cascaded everywhere, and you just sat there going, "Oh no!"
Yeah. I think I ended up having an argument with an Oldham fan as well, didn't I?
You did, yeah. My mate Tom Whiteman, and you were like, "Don't even speak to me about Oldham. I've been to Boundary Park. I know how crap it is." Just Aggie straight away.
Yeah,
somebody had dared say something about another club.
Just horrible and full of myself, for which I apologise.
Obviously, but yeah, I mean, just summarise with Abel. I liked his pace. He was fast. He was absolutely rapid. Direct striker, and he was a predator, and he knew where the back of the net was.
Yeah.
And I was grateful that he stayed for that season. We're in the Championship still.
Yeah.
I think the last goal he scored was where we drew 4-4 at Bristol, I want to say. I think that was the last thing he did, because he went then to... Did he go to CSKA Moscow?
Yeah, I think so.
And I looked up the stats, and he's now at Alai in Qatar, where he's wasted a bit for me.
Was he playing with Diarmi for a while? I think they were together for a bit.
Were they? I didn't look at that.
I think so. I could be wrong. It has happened.
Yeah. It's just a shame, because I think he's still do a job. Championship, maybe
sure
bottom half of the Premier League, to be honest. I don't know why more clubs don't take a gamble on him, but right, so that's our third in our list.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a second with number 2. Stay with us. We're on to number 2 in our players for favourite players. If you want to go first again, Rich, we'll keep the order going. I'm all ears.
Again, I don't think this one will surprise too many people, especially anybody who knows me. And for me, my top 2 in this list, I can't actually separate them. If I were to have to pick between one of them, I think my brain would explode. So the second player in the list, or that I'm going to mention, isn't necessarily my number 2, is Nick Barmby.
Yeah, Barms.
Yeah, local boy done good. I just remember when he signed for us in that summer of 2004. We'd had our first promotion in 19 years, and we were looking up for the first time in a long time. And when Barmby came in, it was just one of those, like, going for it again. We weren't just resting on our laurels, consolidating up the divisions. It was like an aggressive move, which was, after so long in the doldrums, it was like, right, we're having a go at this. It was really exciting for the entire fan base, and it was one of those transfers as well that I don't think you get very often, or that City got very often when we were in the lower leagues. Was you get a player who has a name, like
big name. Like one that you would presume could still be playing at the top level.
Yeah,
But they've decided that they want to go, right, no, I'm going back to me, whether it's hometown or boyhood club or whatever.
yeah. And you can be excited about what he's going to bring to the team. I think, wow, he's going to, do this and that for us. And he's looking at his career earlier on today. It sort of started well everywhere, and then faded as he went. I think there was only his spell at Leeds that really didn't kind of hit any heights initially. I think he scored on his debut there, is what I read this morning. And then he went to Forest, and that didn't go well for him. And
it was just to learn that, wasn't it? He get learned out in Forest.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very short spell. But apparently, while he was there, he had a bust up with his manager at half time, and then spent the second half of 2003-04 on Leeds books, being paid quite a handsome wage by all accounts, and spent the rest of the season watching City.
That's brilliant.
In hospitality in his own box or something.
He's definitely one of our own doing that, and he's taking the money from Leeds and not even watching the team, not even training with you. I'll go to City, thanks, and I'll snooze about and I'll sign for him in summer when my contract ends. Don't worry about that.
The thing that I loved about him signing for us, if you kind of ignore the Leeds thing, because that didn't really play into my thinking at the time, was that I don't know if you've read The Decade by Richard Gardner yet.
It's on my to-read list. I have lots of stuff to read, but I know it's going to be a good read when I get.
It's a fantastic book, but one of the things that I didn't realise that stood out for me in there was Barnby wanting to be in touch with Peter Taylor before he signed for us, because he didn't just want to sign, for a strut around as the local hero. He didn't want to, just be a marquee signing for positive publicity or whatever. He wanted to know that his manager wanted him in the team. Yeah. And that for me speaks volumes about the kind of footballer that Nick Barnby was, especially for City. He gave it his everything. And he was such an intelligent player as well. He was neither kind of a striker or a midfielder. He could play between those lines, and he'd pick up pockets of space. I think Taylor described him as being similar to Teddy Sheringham in that. Yeah. It was more about the movement that he didn't make to find space on the pitch, and he links up well with whoever he played with. I think a lot of Stuart Elliott's goals in that 2004-05 season, you could probably look at the shape of the team and think, well, he's been allowed to cut inside because Barnby's maybe taking a position that enables him to do that. Yeah. He certainly bonded well with Fagan. When Fagan arrived.
Love Fags.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have been a contender for this because I was a big fan of his. Yeah. And the other thing that I always remember about Barnby, although he wasn't necessarily massively prolific for City, I think he scored 32 goals in all competitions for us. The goals that he did score were generally big goals. He scored a lot of goals at Sheff Wednesday. So there's, I think, the 2 in the 4-2 game at Hillsborough.
So 2004 near Christmas, wasn't it? There's the December one.
I mean, the volley in that game is probably one of my favourite City goals of all time. It's just absolute sex ball. But then there were other goals that he scored that season. The one down at Bradford later on in the season, to just about clinch the promotion, was a massive one. And then in other years as well, he scored a goal to equalise at Stoke in 2006-07, which set us up the following week for the massive game at Cardiff where we stayed up. Yeah. And I loved his celebration that day as well, just running in front of the Stoke fans who, if you'd been to Stoke in previous years, you'd know that they weren't the most evenly tempered fan base. So that was brilliant. I think there was a picture came up of that on social media recently, and it's of us, our players celebrating in front of their fans, and then their fans are in the background like some kind of 18th century drawing, where like the
like a Lowry painting.
Yeah, like the grotesques or something in the background. You'd see them from the French Revolution and stuff, like people picking their asses and stuff like that. And then, of course, he got his two goals across the playoff legs as well.
Yeah.
the following
We
season.
talked about a bit last week, didn't we? Obviously, we were talking about favourite home games, and yours was the Watford game.
Yeah, that one that he nicked off Garcia.
Yeah.
And the other one, if just to wrap up, I think that the other thing that endeared me to him was again in his first season when Walsall came and they had Paul Merson as their player manager at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember all the talk in the build up to the game was about this clash of Merson versus Barnby and like these two like former Premier League heavyweights, if you like, playing in league.
Is this the game? Didn't he score really quickly?
He scored in 7 seconds.
That's it. Yeah, I remember it.
The fastest ever goal for City, and it was like, and it everybody's seen what Paul Merson's like on Soccer Saturday and stuff like that. Now it probably speaks of his lack of attention to detail and preparing his team for that game, where it was the only time that I can remember Peter Taylor's famous kickoff routine working. To good effect. Went back to Delaney from kickoff, sprayed right to Stuart Green on the right hand side. He puts a great ball over. It's over Danny Alsop's head, and then Barnby's arriving late and just volleys it in. And it's like, well, there's your answer.
Wish that works every week, Pete.
Well, we tried it often enough.
Yeah, we did. We did. Right, so that's that's a good choice. I've gone a different flavour.
Okay.
Maybe a bit controversial. Don't know. You'll have to see. Mine's David Myler.
Okay.
I love David Myler. Probably due to the fact that I spoke to him in Nando's at Christmas, and he just that's such a claim to fame. I took the kids. I was with my missus and took the kids to watch Frozen 2 because over the Christmas holidays you do, don't you?
Yeah.
And went for Nando's beforehand. Don't really go to Nando's that much. But it was absolutely dead, so it was brilliant. Because if there's anything I like, it is an empty restaurant. Because I can't be doing with people. Not like it's not busy or anything. It was brilliant. And then just in walks David Myler with his wife and kids, just like really down to earth. Chatted for a bit. Oh, you're right, David. I was going, yeah. Just had the time to do it. Didn't overstay my welcome and go, oh, can I have a selfie? And let's put it on Instagram. None of that rubbish. But no,
he's out with his family, leave him alone.
Exactly. Just have a quick chat. Oh, nice to meet you. Big fan. All of that sort of stuff. But he had the time to do it. He could have just ignored me.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anybody else really in there, so it probably made it more sort of, it's more likely for him to do it if there's not loads of people around his table. You'd hate that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I always think if you were a footballer, you'd probably hate people coming up to you just because not that you're not grateful for the attention, but you just want to get I'm just out for a meal, mate.
Yeah. My brother had a story about that once when he was travelling in Asia and he saw, I think it was Michael Laudrup he saw him in just a shopping mall. I can't remember where he was. I think it was Thailand or something like that. And nobody was bothering Michael Laudrup. But Rob recognised that it was him, went over, had a photo with him, and then he said by the time they left, he was absolutely swamped by people who didn't know who he was, but because he was somebody was having a picture.
Because Rob had done for a picture, he went, oh, he must be famous.
Yeah, completely spoiled his meal, and apparently his wife just had a face like thunder, was just like, oh, for God's sake, not again.
Can't take him anywhere.
No.
But yeah, the reason I love Myler more though is, so I looked at his stats: 147 games for us, which is up there in the amount of appearances. 13 goals, so he hasn't have an amazing record. He wasn't a goal scorer; he was a midfielder.
Yeah,
and I still think that's respectable for him because you get some midfielders just never scoring at all.
It's one in 10. Somebody.
Yeah, it's not bad
for a deep lying midfielder like he was as well. It's decent.
He wasn't. If we're talking about the most technically best players for City, he wouldn't make the list, but I prefer him because his work rate and attitude was always first class.
Yeah, he gave you 100% of what he had, which I think is in terms of traits that City fans appreciate. That's probably one of the the top ones. You want somebody that leaves it all out there, don't you?
Oh yeah, he never left anything like away from that. He's always 100%, and he'd always get a booking as well, which I love. As you know, Rich, I do love a late challenge.
Yes, yeah.
When I'm playing or when I'm watching, oh yes, get him, lad, come on, take him out. But he always as well loved a funny celebration.
Yeah,
one of my best.
A FIFA celebration.
Say again.
A FIFA celebration.
Yeah, he did whether he's doing a fortnight like thing or whatever it was, but the best one for me was when he'd had that spat with Pardew on sideline. I was actually in West Upper for that game because it was the only ticket I could get, and I had a great view of it because obviously it was in the touchline, wasn't it? It was where the dugouts were, so I had an absolute perfect vision of it. When I watched it back again, it was just even funnier. But Pardew there's no need for him to do that, no need at all. And Myler then thinks best, like he obviously did the best thing by not, because if I remember hearing an interview with Dino. I think it was on the Magic Sponge with Rob Beckett and when Bullard did it, and Dino went, "If he did that to me, I'd have floored him."
That would have been.
I would have absolutely torn him out.
It would have been a gross overreaction anyway, because it was. I mean, it was the softest headbutt you'll ever see.
It was, but he wanted to get there, and I'm not sure which player came in. But he was like backing him away, and then everybody sort of piled in, and it was all ridiculous, wasn't it? But was it 2 or 3 weeks after he scored? The first thing he did, ran to the corner flag, headbutted him. Like nod to that, just absolutely brilliant. So not the most highest scoring record.
He's got some good goals though.
And
I mean that
he did score.
I don't know if you've
goals.
seen it.
There's
one against Bolton in 15-16.
I do. I watched that when I was doing my research on Myler, and that was one of the reasons that I picked him, because like some of the goals he did score, you would have thought he has no right scoring.
Yeah, it's an absolute striker.
Yeah,
right foot like a traction engine.
I do foot like a traction engine. One of the other ones obviously was the semi-final, because me and you were there together.
Yeah.
And just when he broke, and he even had Fry on the left hand side, didn't he? He could have squared it. And I was like, square it. And then he just finds the bottom corner with a great, it's like a strike.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish.
He had it in him.
Yeah.
He had it in him when he wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, David Myler, my number 2.
The other thing that I appreciated about Myler when he first signed for us was that he I thought, brought a little bit of nous that kind of belied his lack of experience. In terms of games played, he did, and it's only a little thing, but it's something I appreciated of him, because I think City at times, especially in recent years, could be accused of maybe not being street smart. But Myler used to buy fouls.
Massively. He was a good diver, and he made it look
little bit of contact, and he would go down.
Absolutely.
And I know, people's opinions, it makes football look soft, but whether you like it or not, it's part of the game. And it's, my opinion on diving is that it's not quite the crime against humanity that a lot of football fans think it is. It's just part.
No, because you have to think about it, don't you? If the perfect example is Owen in '98 where he dives, 2002 where he dives for that penalty which Becks then scored.
Yeah.
You didn't see anybody outcrying that, did you?
No, it's one of those, isn't it? If it works for your team, you think it's funny.
Exactly.
If it goes for you, it's funny. If it goes against you, then you're outraged.
And actually, when you look at it, if there's contact or something, you can see this with all the VAR nonsense that we've had this season. I mean, not in the Championship, obviously, but higher up. That it's very difficult to prove when somebody dives anyway. What's the line? So there's no point in getting wound up about it, is there?
No, as long as it's...
Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. But Myler, I could say, was very good at winning that foul in key areas. The other thing I was just going to say about Myler as well was, if you look at one of the celebrations that I always did like was he'd run to the corner straight away, but he'd be pointing to the crowd, like he'd do it, and then he'd be like, it wouldn't all be about him. He'd be like congratulating his teammates, and he wouldn't be, he's very much a team player.
Seems that way.
That's so yours was
Nick Bambi.
Bambi. Yours was Barnes, and mine was Myler. So if we have a little break, then we'll come back with our number 1 favourite player. We'll be back very shortly. In fact, if we go to our guest now, and then we'll talk to her, and then we'll go to our number 1. So stay with us. Right, so we have our very special first guest ever on Tigers, blah, blah, blah. She tells me that she just wants to be introduced as Bobbi Hadgraft off of Twitter. She did put that in a message to me. But it's Bobbi Hadgraft, and this young lady was on the panel to redesign the current club crest. And also she contributes city content to Sky Sports. So she's more famous than me and Rich are.
How do you like them apples?
Yeah, exactly. And if I understand it, you're also a journalism student at University Academy 92 in Manchester. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then anything else, introduce yourself, and then we'll get on with it.
Well, I'm just a first year student, really, and trying to get my, my foot in the door when and where I can. So yeah,
great stuff. Right, so we'll start with top 3 favourite players. I think we'll start with that, and then we'll do a second segment where we do the flops. So if you want to start at number 3, the floor is all yours.
All right, so this was really difficult for me because I was thinking, am I going to answer it about who I thought was technically the best or my personal favourites? I decided to go with my heart, and I've done my 3 personal favourites.
That's what we were looking for. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So my first one it's quite, I'm sure it's in many Hull City fans' top 3. It's Dean Windass. Nice. And it kind of goes without saying, that girl at Wembley, and need I say more? He will definitely go down in history at the club, and he continues to be a character on social media. I'm not sure about you, but I live for those daily videos and making the bed.
Yeah, we all love a bit of Dino, don't we? I do like the positivity that he brings to that sort of thing. It is good to see on there. He's always good value, and he is Dino. So yeah, I wouldn't have any arguments with that. Is that your best memory then? The goal at Wembley. Were you there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wasn't there actually. You know what? I wasn't there, and it's one of my biggest regrets. I was at the other, like every other time we've been to Wembley, but that one I wasn't, and it kills me. But his story's just a dream, and there's just nothing better than seeing a hometown boy bring the club success. And yeah, hopefully we'll see that in Keane Lewis Potter.
Interestingly about Keane Lewis Potter, my sister taught him. She went to St Mary's, where I was actually a teacher there for a while. But my sister is still there, and she always just comments about, "Oh, he was such a naughty student." And I'm like, "Who cares? Who cares?"
A bit like Dino, then.
Yeah, exactly like
Potter
Dino.
Is one of our own. Like, don't care how he was at school, as long as he does it on the pitch.
No, tell me more about his grades in RE, please.
Yeah. I'll have to ask our kid and see what she says. She definitely won't be listening to this. But she's not really a City or a football person. She's more into rugby, so egg chasing for her. But yeah, so right, perfect. So that's your number 3, Bobby, and then your number 2.
So Curtis Davis, and I think that's quite an underrated one to be honest, because I haven't seen many mention him, but he was one of my favourite players, like just personal experience. It's just, little things like when they come up to you and how friendly they are during the pre-season friendlies at North Ferriby. He always came up and took a photo and had a chat, and he was just a great character, and it was and for the most part a solid defender in one of our most illustrious periods. One of the best things was when he captained our first ever spell in Europe in 2014. And for me, goal-wise, that opening header against Sunderland in the 6th round of the FA Cup.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it was massive,
just watching it back gives me goosebumps every time.
I loved hearing about his impact in the Cup semi-final as well. Like the team talk that he's supposed to have given at half-time was dragging the team back into it after a pretty abject first half. So I think that's a good shout. I'm surprised so few people have mentioned him, actually.
Do you know what? I think you're right, because I haven't seen Curtis Davis on any of those lists, and now I'm looking at mine going, "Oh God, I should have put Curtis in there somewhere." He was a rock, wasn't he? On his game, he was one of the best defenders that we've had in the last sort of 15 years, I think.
Yeah,
should have played more games for us as well. Definitely. I always hated when Michael Dawson came in, and Davies was the one that dropped out for him. I thought that was one of the mistakes that Bruce made that season, was marginalising Davies so quickly.
You went to the away game, didn't you, in Europe, Rich? The qualifying.
I went to the locker and won.
Yeah.
I didn't go to trenching.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
It was probably a better day for it anyway. You know, you'd have more fun in Belgium than you would driving to wherever trenching was.
Was it Serbia or Slovakia or somewhere? I have to do my research on that. I can't remember. It was 0-0 that one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a 1-0 defeat's any better, but
No, but the local hospitality was probably better.
Really? Were you like that street with the big water tanks? Did you go down there?
Oh, afterwards, yeah. But I mean, yeah. But you know, everything else before was nice and.
Yeah, true.
Right, so it's number 2. So number 3 was Dino, number 2 was Curtis Davis, and then your favourite player of all time, Bobby. Would be delighted to hear this. Come on.
So he was my hero throughout my early teens and the only player to ever give me his match-worn shirt after a game, and it was Abel Hernandez.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So that was after Birmingham at home that he gave me his shirt, and like I've still got the shirt. I should probably get it framed, really, and I still haven't washed it, which is a bit disgusting, but I think it's part of the sentiment. And he was just the striker you always wanted on your side, and like the most memorable moment was the double bicycle kick because it was just so funny. Like I'd call it a juxtaposition between him and Diamande because they couldn't be further apart in terms of ability.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that because I mean Hernandez on his day he just oozed class, didn't he, for me? But Diamande has made a little bit of an appearance in the flops bit on Twitter that we've.
I know. I saw that somebody put him down as a flop, and it's like, what are you talking about?
I know. So obviously,
there's much worse than Dio, yeah.
But yeah, that bicycle kick, unbelievable. You know, I was in France on holiday, and we were in a pub watching that, and I messed my knees up sliding on the floor of the pub all the way down. My knees were not the same for weeks; they were in bits. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but you know what City does to you. Just takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah, tell me about it.
I'd like to thank Bobby for being our first ever guest.
Not a problem.
Cheers, Bobby.
Stuff. And I'm sure we may have you on again if we make it into a second season, if we've got that much material to spin out.
Oh yeah, you've got to. I'll be rooting for you.
Thanks very much.
Once we start playing some games again, that'd be a good thing to do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're all struggling at the minute, aren't we, without City? But hopefully this can fill the void until the season does make a return.
I'm even thinking about buying FIFA again. I'm like,
oh mate, look, you haven't done that for years.
I know.
Great stuff. Right, thanks, Bobby. We will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
We're back.
I am definitely leaving that. Oh, we've started with a wrestling impression. Might be a bit niche that, but I will leave. So,
who doesn't know the Macho Man?
Favourite players. Number one player, and obviously you've done yours, then I've done mine. We'll keep it like that.
Okay, doke.
Who is your number one favourite player for City? Rich Walker.
Ian Ashby.
Ian
Ashby.
Ian Ashby, the legend.
Probably. Well, yeah. That word gets thrown around far too much these days. You know, there's too many footballers who get given the title legend, I think. But Ian Ashby, for City, if not the wider footballing world, at least in England, is, I think, deserving of that title. You know, as far as I'm aware, nobody else since has captained the same club through all four leagues. I think it'll be a long time before anybody does.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And, you know, who'd have thought that when he signed initially that he would be the man to do it? He wasn't even, Mulby signed him, but he wasn't even given the captain's armband to start with. It went to Greg Strong.
Yeah. Oh, God,
who was, you know, strong contender, no pun intended, for one of my flops. But
well, that's to come.
Yeah,
next episode. I thought, but yeah,
I think so by now.
Yeah,
but Greg Strong got sent off down at Bristol Rovers, and after that, Ashby took over the mantle, I think, and it was really the ultimate survivor, because he would every year would be in a new division or a new manager or something. There always seemed to be some kind of turnover at City, and you would, for some reason, Ashby would be the one that fans would look at and say, can he make the step up? Whether that was because, as I say, we got promoted or we'd signed somebody else to replace him, John Welsh came in or Keith Andrews came in or whatever, there was always something that made people question his place in the team, and his value. I was always convinced of it, but, being a teenager, I was a bit of an Ash fanboy, so I was like, no, he has to stay in. And it's just these qualities, I think, are those that go unappreciated, because he wasn't a flashy player, he wasn't the most skillful, but what he did was simple and effective. He was disciplined. He'd retain his position, he'd win possession back, and he'd always just give it simple to a fullback. He'd allow his better players in his team to go and express themselves. You think of some of the attackers that he's played alongside, and I think you think about the midfield from 2004 to 5 and the players that are in it. You've got in the middle Ashby with Green, Jason Price and Stuart Elliott. Now, which one of those 4 players is going to help out defensively?
No.
Other than Ashby.
Yeah, they're not going to, are they?
Pricey would do a job, I think, to be fair, because he was a right back, so he was quite hard. Yeah. He was quite hard working coming back the other way.
You're not going to get Stuart Green and Stuart Elliott dropping back into.
Greeny certainly wasn't the type to dig in, was he?
No.
But
Elliott would, but I don't. That's not his position. It's not his.
No, and it's not where you want him. You want him.
No,
you want him further up the pitch. To score 27 goals a year. Probably would have scored 50 if it wasn't for Effie Sodji.
All 27 goals, 25 of them headed.
That would be slightly ridiculous there, but he definitely would have scored more if it wasn't for Effie Sodji. And his wandering elbows.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what's happened to Effie Sodji since. But look that one up, because the story of the Sodgis is quite interesting. I don't know enough about it to be able to say, but it is quite interesting. But back to Ashby. He had those 2 big career-threatening injuries, one in 2005-06 and then one towards the end of 2008-09 that kept him out for the duration of the second Premier League season. But he still came back, and all right, he didn't last that long under Nigel Pearson before he was shipped out. But just the ultimate survivor. Had massive.
Preston won it. Did he go to Preston?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I remember him coming back for Preston, and it just looked wrong. It looked wrong, to see him in another team strip at the KC. And I don't know if there was a bit of a personality clash between Ashby and Nigel Pearson. I think I've seen Ash refer to him as Action Man, which is quite funny.
Yeah. One of the just as an aside to that, again, Bullard used to do the podcast with Rob Beckett.
Uh-huh.
And he talks in a lot of detail about how much he disliked Nigel Pearson.
Right.
And yeah, Action Man was what they referred to him
as.
Was it? Just because he had like Lego hair, and it just, I think he wound a lot of people up.
It's probably because Nigel Pearson, if he was an Action Man, demanded discipline from his players, and maybe Jimmy Bullard didn't like that. I don't know.
Very possibly. But it's telling, though, that both him and then Ashby was a completely different type of player, and one that you can rely on.
Yeah. Big mates, though. Those
also didn't like it.
Apparently, they were big mates, Bullard and Ashby, so that might have something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Possibly.
Don't know them personally. But yeah, just survived, hung around, well, more than hung around, he excelled really, and he made massive contributions to the team in every year that he was in it. And, people talk about his goal at Yeovil, but which, understandably, great goal, and it'll be one of the most famous goals in the club's history, because it was really the catalyst for everything that happened in the 7 or 8 years after that. But he also got 2 of my favourite Ian Ashby goals from the 2007-08 season. One was away at Barnsley, I think we were live on Sky, and he scored an absolutely massive header, like just a rocket header from Dean Marney corner, and it was like bullet. He was coming in at pace, and he was getting on the end of it. He shrugged his marker off and just bang into the back of the net. And then I think it was a couple of weeks later we had Crystal Palace at home, and it was Warnock was their manager at the time, and they and they were
Colin Wang.
they were coming on strong, I think, to take third, and we were third. There's something like that. I can't remember exactly. It's a while ago, but we won 2-1 that day. I think it was 2-1. We definitely scored 2.
In April 2008.
Yeah. And Campbell scored, but Ashby scored a corner from a corner, another header at the south stand. It was absolutely like just a leap. You didn't know he had it in him, but he got up. I think it was at front post. Corner came in from the, if I remember right, down in front of the west stand, and Ashby just got up and flicked it back across goal and in. It was such a key header, big time in the season. So that's, all that taken together is why Ashby is, probably coupled with Nick Barmby, 1A and 1B are my favourite 2 City players.
Good choices. Obviously, don't disagree with anything you've said, but obviously you take your personal experience into it as well, don't you?
Yeah. I loved City, and that was when I was most kind of fervent in my support of City. Me, my dad, and my brother went to like every game for 7 or 8 years, home and away. So I got to see those sides that they were in every game.
We knew more. It's like the ins and outs.
It's privileged to watch them. And I think I always I talk to my granddad now, and he talks about Rach Carter and how football was so much better in the 40s and stuff like that. You kind of think, well, yeah, but you don't know, blah blah blah. Don't appreciate maybe what you're watching as such now. But I think I'm slowly coming to the realization that should I be lucky enough to live to 85, that I will be telling my grandkids when they're talking about their favourite City players, and I'll be going, well, yes, but Ian Ashby did this.
He's no Ian Ashby, I'll tell you.
I think the teams of your youth are the ones that you form the strongest connections with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my number one, I've gone for a defender.
Okay. It's Jason Van Blake, isn't it?
No. It's Paul McShane.
Okay.
Which I think might surprise a lot of people, but I love Paul McShane. First season he came for us was on loan, wasn't it? He came from Man United. So it was the first Premier League season that we were in there. 2008.
Are you sure it was at Sunderland?
Oh, no, sorry, yeah, came from Sunderland because originally coming from Man United because he was Man United youth, wasn't he?
Yes.
So we had him on a season long. And even though we signed him permanently the year after, the more the years went on, he kind of fell out of favour with the fans, and he was made up a little bit of a scapegoat in my eyes, because people either didn't rate him, didn't think he was trying or whatever, and he had 2 different loan moves, didn't he?
He was in and out, wasn't he? Did you read? Phil Buckingham did a very good interview with him in the last couple of weeks, I think, and I
read the Friar one. I haven't read the McShane one.
I think it was a 2 or 3 parter. He was just saying that he was probably a little bit too quick to go and bang on the manager's door and say, I want to be in the team.
Yeah.
And he's admitted that, but I love that out of McShane, and I think that's probably the reason why you like him, is that it was almost like commitment and passion to play to the point of reckless abandon.
He'd just do anything, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
on the pitch, whatever he needed to do, he'd have done it. Just a bit like Myler for me, because I like the. It's not necessarily the flair players. I know, because I chose Hernandez as number 3. He was more of a flair player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because you have the pace and the goal scoring and the over enthusiastic celebrations and dancing and all of that sort of stuff, which is all the things that McShane would have hated, I think. But because obviously he went on loan to Barnsley 2011, and then he went on to Palace as well 2012. Yeah. When he came back into the team, he was so much better. because everybody used to say, "Oh, McShane, he can't rely on him for this, can't rely on him for that," and he won the fans back like properly. Everybody loved him, and because you had "Don't Sell McShane," didn't you, as the chant, and that was one that always loved that. Always loved "Don't Sell McShane." It was a great chant that we had. And one of the memories, I referred to it last week actually, when we talked about favourite away games, and I watched it again this morning, where he scores with his hand against Forest. Absolutely brilliant, because he was so blatant, and he just went and shrugged in front of our fans, and then he was just like giving it the fist bump and everything. He actually played over 100 times for City. I was looking this up. 102 appearances apparently, and he scored 5 goals, which again for a defender, 1 goal every 20-ish, 25. It's not. It's about what you'd expect from a defender, but I think some of these goals were the most memorable one. I think you could probably say was the Liverpool one.
I'd probably say Cardiff. Cardiff at home.
I have that one on my list, and I have Cardiff. But just because of when we were in the Premier League 08-09 and taking it by storm the first 3 months, weren't we?
Yeah.
Getting a 2-2 at Liverpool and him scoring there.
What a right outside that was, Bernard Mendy and Paul McShane.
I know. But yeah,
two contrasting styles.
Oh, absolutely. That goal against Liverpool, the one against Forest with his hand, and then obviously the crowning glory was the Cardiff one.
Yeah, I mean that was all about desire, that goal as well, wasn't it?
But that summed him
across
up,
there,
didn't it?
Yeah,
that summed him up.
Yeah, getting across. He wanted that. You know, he wasn't going to be denied.
No. So that's my choice.
It's a solid. One of my favourite Paul McShane memories is from an away game at Man City. I think it was the one where we got absolutely hammered, and we had the special, famous team talk on the pitch at half time, and he tried to do a nip up off his back on the left wing. I can remember it just like this stupid nip up, and he didn't get anywhere near completing it. But it was so funny just watching him try to do it and struggle. Like of all the humiliating things that he'd been involved in that day, I'd imagine that for him that was one of the worst.
Brilliant.
It sticks out in the memory that there wasn't much entertaining about that day from a City perspective, and that was one of them.
No, that is I actually remember what you're referring to. That's not the best.
It's like he thought he was Shawn Michaels or something.
There's one more thing we was going to do. Obviously, so just to clarify the list, your third was
Fraser Campbell,
and
Nick Barmby, and Ian Ashby.
Nick Barmby and Ian Ashby, and then mine was Abel Hernandez, David Myler, and then Paul McShane. We've had a lot of stuff off of Twitter. So when he started the account yesterday, I've had loads of people tweet us, so I was just going to finish by reading out some of these and seeing what you thought of them. So John Colley says Askew, Windus and Mike Edwards.
I absolutely loved that shout for Mike Edwards.
Mike Edwards, he just said something like, he wasn't the most gifted, but he was the best ambassador.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Mike Edwards, I thought, was one of those players that got a tough time off the fans because he wasn't necessarily a commanding presence. He could look sometimes a little bit boyish. I always felt bad for him when he got moved along because, I think he was City through and through. And he was one of those players that I think that the crowd got on the back of. Which easily. It's a very Hull City trait that I think to find a player in every team and zero in on them. But I love that Mike Edwards getting some recognition. Yeah,
good shout. Jordan Tyson 92 says Whitmore, Ashby, and Elliott.
Solid, good 3.
Solid choices.
Yeah.
Elliott did nearly feature in mine, but I do remember Whitmore because I was a kid growing up. We both went to school together, didn't we? So 90s, Theo Whitmore, Ian Goodison, the rest of the reggae boys in tow. That's a good shout. And then Chris Halencian says JJ Okocha, Giovanni and Huddleston for best technical, but favourite Ashby, Abel and Eldin Jakupovic.
I wondered if Jakupovic had come up with a few people.
I thought he would. To be honest, because he was just after we talked about this at the weekend, didn't we? And I actually said, I quite like Eldin just because he redeemed himself. I like that thing of a player redeeming himself.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that.
The
never
fans
say die.
Crap. France think he's crap, but then he wins them over.
Yeah.
And it's that celebration where he's turned his back for that penalty and we score it. This is Jakupovic, and then he's just fist pumping and throwing his bottle down and all that. And then the reaction of the save against Arsenal as well.
Arsenal and Man United at Old Trafford, it was absolutely immense.
Yeah.
Then,
he was. I remember that. It was 0-0 draw, yeah.
Yeah.
There were some others as well that I've made a note of. So we also have lots of lists off of Twitter. James Lockwood says Windus, Payton and Maguire. Interesting.
Harry Maguire's an interesting one, I think, for City fans, because he's a bit like Andy Robertson in that, he did well for us, but he's always going to have achieved his career peak elsewhere.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Maguire because I love the way he'd just step out and just take people on, because he could play as a deep line midfielder, really.
I was, but in his early spell, like when he went out on loan to Wigan, I know that people use it as a stick to beat Bruce with now, to say that we had the world's most expensive defender.
I don't think he was ready for the team. I don't think he was. But I'm not surprised to see him feature as people's favourite players. He's just one of those that I wish we'd been able to see for longer, because then I think he would stick out more in my mind. I remember there's a time up on my Facebook, and it always does it when Maguire left during went to Leicester.
Yeah.
And I posted, well, at least Maguire will play for England now. He's at a bigger club. And then look at
look at him now. Yeah.
And look at him now. Knocker Norton one says Edwards, Jobson, and Parker. And then honourable mentions for Elliot, JJ, and Giovanni, but only in brackets for 6 months. Which I liked.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
Cheers, Darren. And then Andy Steele says Jobson, Norman, and Whitmore. Another lad, a lad we went to school with, Tom Everson. What Everson on Twitter says, Price, Andy Dawson, and Rossigna. I'm glad Rossigna got on.
Yeah. Rossigna's one of my favourites. Yeah.
And then Somerville FC says Myhill, Giovanni, and Bowen. I will point out that Somerville FC is one of my old students from up teaching, and he is only 17, so that's what he's going to remember.
It's not bad three. What was it?
Myhill, Giovanni, and Bowen, which I think solid choices.
Yeah, decent three. One point on Boaz Myhill, though. We need to stop singing Boaz Myhill's chant for other goalkeepers.
Yeah, take note, fans.
It's wrong. Stop it.
Take note. Nothing's sacred these days. Leave Miles' chant.
Yeah, George Long in the middle of our goal is wrong.
Yeah, no, we don't need to. We need to be more inventive. I say, I mean, City fans in general need to be more inventive. Okay, so thank you to everybody who's tweeted us, messaged us, lots of good stuff. I never thought we'd really get this much interest, but obviously coronavirus is making people really miss football. So
I suspect once City start playing games again, people will be like, well, that was a load of rubbish. Let's go back to actually doing something that matters.
Hey, but at least we're having fun, you know.
And we're keeping off the streets,
keeping off the streets, be sensible, people. And then that's it. So we'll next week we'll look at top flops.
Yes. Which
should be interesting discussion.
There'll be more swearing in that episode.
I'm sure there will be. So it's goodbye from me and
it's goodbye from him.
Great stuff. All right, thanks for listening. Remember on the social medias, Twitter is @TigersBlah, and then Facebook is @Tigers Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we will see you again soon.